She was sold to the most feared Apache warrior, a man whispered about in terror across the frontier. But what she discovered in his world was nothing like what she had been told. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. Sarah Mitchell stared at the approaching dust cloud, her heart pounding against her ribs. The stagecoach had been attacked just an hour earlier, the driver and guard killed instantly. Now she stood alone, her wrists bound with rough leather as the Apache warriors approached on horseback. "Please God, let it be quick," she whispered, closing her eyes against the harsh Arizona sun. The thundering hooves stopped and Sarah forced her eyes open. Before her stood the tallest Apache she had ever seen, his obsidian eyes studying her with cold calculation. His face was painted for war, red stripes across high cheekbones, and eagle feathers adorned his long black hair. "This one will fetch a good price," one of the warriors said in broken English, circling Sarah on his horse. The tall warrior dismounted, approaching her with slow, deliberate steps. "She is not for trading," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "She belongs to Takuna now." Sarah felt her knees weaken. Takuna, the name was whispered in terror throughout the Arizona territory. The fiercest Apache warrior, responsible for dozens of raids on settlements. A man whose very name made hardened soldiers tremble. "Please," Sarah found her voice. "My father will pay for my return. He owns the largest ranch in the territory." Takuna's expression remained impassive. "The white man's money means nothing to me. You will come to my village." With a swift motion, he lifted her onto his horse and mounted behind her. Sarah felt the heat of his body against her back, his arm like iron around her waist. As they rode deeper into the wilderness, Sarah studied the passing landscape, committing each landmark to memory. If she escaped, she would need to find her way back to civilization. "Your efforts are useless," Takuna said, noticing her attention to the trail. "No white person has ever escaped from my village." "There's always a first time," Sarah replied, earning a grunt from the warrior. After hours of riding, they crested a hill, revealing a village nestled in a hidden valley. Smoke rose from several wickiups, and children played among the dwellings. Women worked at cooking fires or scraped hides stretched on frames. As they entered the village, curious eyes turned toward them. Sarah felt like a curiosity, a strange animal brought home for examination. An elderly woman approached, her face weathered like the surrounding mountains. "Another one, Takuna?" she asked in Apache, but Sarah understood enough from her time at the frontier. "She will work," Takuna replied, dismounting and pulling Sarah down beside him. The old woman studied Sarah's face, then her hands. "Too soft, she knows nothing of our ways." "Then she will learn, mother," Takuna said firmly. Sarah's eyes widened. This was Takuna's mother? The feared warrior who had brought terror to so many settlements lived with his mother? "Come," the old woman said to Sarah, taking her arm. "I am Nasha. You will stay in my wickiup until you learn our ways." Sarah was led to a dome-shaped dwelling made of branches covered with hides and grasses. Inside, it was surprisingly cool and spacious. Nasha untied Sarah's wrists, rubbing the chafed skin with a salve that smelled of pine and herbs. "Why am I here?" Sarah asked. "What does he want from me?" Nasha's dark eyes met hers. "My son has lost much to your people. His wife, his child. Perhaps he seeks to understand his enemy." "I've never harmed anyone," Sarah protested. "No? Your father's ranch? Was it built on Apache land?" Sarah fell silent, unable to answer. Her father had always said the land was rightfully purchased, but she had heard rumors of forced sales and threatened violence. That night, as Sarah lay on a bed of soft furs, she heard Takuna speaking with the tribal elders outside. Their voices rose and fell like the wind, and though she couldn't understand all the words, she heard her name mentioned several times. "The Mitchell girl could bring retribution upon us," one voice argued. "Let them come," Takuna replied. "We have beaten them before." Sarah pulled a fur over her shoulders, shivering despite the warm night. She was a pawn in a game much larger than herself, caught between two worlds at war. As she drifted into an uneasy sleep, she resolved to learn all she could about these people. Knowledge, her father always said, was the key to survival. And survive she would, even in the camp of the most feared Apache warrior in the Arizona territory. Dawn broke over the Apache village, painting the sky in hues of amber and gold. Sarah had been Takuna's captive for 2 weeks now, and each day brought new lessons in survival. Her once soft hands were now calloused from grinding corn, carrying water, and tanning hides alongside the Apache women. Today, Nasha had instructed her to help prepare a stew of rabbit and wild onions. Sarah worked methodically, aware of the curious glances from the other women. Some regarded her with open hostility, others with quiet curiosity. "You learn quickly," Nasha observed, stirring the pot with a wooden spoon. "Most white women refuse our ways." "I want to live," Sarah replied simply, adding herbs to the mixture. Nasha smiled, the lines around her eyes deepening. A wise answer. "My son watches you, you know." Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. She had noticed Takuna's dark eyes following her movements across the village, but he had barely spoken to her since bringing her here. "Why does he keep me here if he won't speak to me?" Sarah asked. Takuna's heart is like the mountain stone, hard from years of weathering, but even stone can be worn smooth by persistent water. Nasha handed Sarah a bowl of the finished stew. "Take this to him. He has returned from hunting." With trepidation, Sarah carried the steaming bowl to Takuna's wickiup at the edge of the village. She found him sitting outside, cleaning his hunting knife, fresh deer meat hanging nearby. "Your mother sent this," Sarah said, offering the bowl. Takuna took it without a word, his fingers brushing hers momentarily. The touch sent an unexpected shiver up her arm. "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to a spot across from him. Sarah hesitated, then lowered herself to the ground, arranging her tattered skirts around her legs. "You have not tried to escape," Takuna observed between bites. "Would I succeed?" The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "No." "Then why waste the energy?" Sarah replied, watching him eat. His movements were precise, efficient, like everything else about him. "Your father has posted a reward for your return," Takuna said, studying her reaction. $500. Sarah felt a pang of homesickness. "Only 500? I'm worth at least 1,000. This time Takuna did smile, briefly transforming his stern features. "The soldiers are searching the northern mountains. They will not find us here." "And when they do?" Sarah asked. "What then?" Takuna's expression darkened. "Then we will fight as we have always fought. And I will be caught in the middle." "You are already in the middle, Sarah Mitchell. You have been since your people came to our lands." It was the first time he had used her name, and something in the way he said it made her pulse quicken. "I could help negotiate peace," she suggested cautiously. "My father has influence with the territorial governor." Takuna laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "Peace? Your people speak of peace while taking our hunting grounds, killing our game, poisoning our water. No, there will be no peace while white men draw breath in Apache lands." "Not all white men are the same," Sarah argued, "just as not all Apache are raiders." Takuna's eyes flashed dangerously. "We raid because we must survive, because your people have left us no choice." An uncomfortable silence fell between them. Sarah picked at a loose thread on her skirt, weighing her next words carefully. "Teach me," she finally said. "Teach you what?" "Your language, your ways. If I am to live here, I should understand." Takuna studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Why would you want to learn the ways of savages? Is that not what your people call us?" "My people are not here," Sarah replied evenly. "And I have seen nothing savage about how you live. Different, yes, but not savage." Something shifted in Takuna's gaze. Surprise, perhaps, or grudging respect. He finished his stew and set the bowl aside. "Tomorrow," he said, "we begin at dawn." The following morning, Sarah rose before the sun, dressing quickly in the deerskin dress Nasha had made for her. Her cotton dress had become too tattered for practical use, and she had accepted the gift gratefully. The soft leather moved with her body in a way her corseted dresses never had. Takuna was waiting at the edge of the village, mounted on his painted horse, another horse tethered beside him. "Can you ride?" he asked as she approached. "Since I was 5 years old," Sarah replied, taking the reins he offered. She mounted smoothly, adjusting her seat on the bare back of the horse. Takuna nodded approvingly and led them away from the village, up into the foothills. As they rode, he pointed out plants and their uses. which could heal, which could kill, which could be eaten or used for dye. Sarah listened intently, committing each lesson to memory. Your people see the land as something to own, to fence and divide, Takuna said as they paused by a stream. For Apache, the land owns us. We belong to it, not the other way around. That's beautiful, Sarah said sincerely. Takuna glanced at her sharply, as if searching for mockery, but found none. Come, he said, dismounting. I will show you how to find water in the dry season. For hours, he taught her survival skills, how to read animal tracks, how to move silently through the brush, how to find north without a compass. Sarah proved an apt pupil, her frontier upbringing giving her advantages most town-raised girls wouldn't have had. As the sun reached its zenith, they rested in the shade of a cottonwood tree. Sarah drank from the water skin Takuna offered, watching him from beneath lowered lashes. In the dappled sunlight, with his guard momentarily lowered, he looked younger, less fierce. Why did you really bring me here? She asked suddenly. There must be a reason beyond making me work in your village. Takuna was silent for so long that Sarah thought he wouldn't answer. Finally he spoke, his voice low and controlled. 3 winters ago, soldiers came to our previous village. They killed many, including my wife and son. They were led by a man named Mitchell. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. My father? Your uncle? Your father's brother? Takuna's eyes bore into hers. I took you as payment for that debt. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered, the inadequacy of the words burning her throat. I didn't know. Now you do, Takuna replied, standing abruptly. We returned to the village. The ride back was silent. The easy rapport of the morning shattered. Sarah's mind raced with this new information. Her uncle Robert had been a cavalry officer, killed in an Apache ambush 2 years ago. Had he been responsible for the atrocity Takuna described? And what did this mean for her own fate? As they approached the village, Takuna finally spoke again. Tomorrow, we continue the lessons. You have much to learn. Sarah nodded, understanding that whatever his original intentions had been in taking her captive, something had changed. She was no longer just a prisoner or a servant. She was becoming something else, something neither of them had anticipated. And that realization was as terrifying as it was exhilarating. 1 month had passed since Sarah's capture, and the Arizona summer blazed with merciless heat. The Apache village had relocated twice during this time, moving higher into the mountains where the air was cooler and game more plentiful. Sarah had grown accustomed to the nomadic lifestyle, packing her few belongings efficiently, and helping the other women dismantle and reassemble the wiki-ups. Her daily lessons with Takuna continued, evolving beyond mere survival skills. He now taught her the Apache language, the complex system of hand signals used during hunts, and the rich history of his people. In return, Sarah shared stories of her own childhood, carefully avoiding topics that might reopen the wounds of their people's conflicts. This morning, they sat on a high ridge overlooking a vast expanse of desert and mountains. Sarah could just make out a plume of smoke in the far distance. Fort Braverman, the nearest military outpost. Your people are persistent, Takuna remarked, following her gaze. They're still searching for me. The patrols have increased. They came within 5 miles of our previous camp. His expression was grim. The tribal council believes you should be returned. Sarah felt a conflicting surge of emotions. Hope at the prospect of seeing her family again, and a surprising reluctance to leave the life she had begun to build here. And what do you believe? She asked, turning to face him. Takuna's dark eyes met hers. I believe that returning you would bring more soldiers, not peace. They would follow whoever brings you back to our new location. I wouldn't let that happen, Sarah said firmly. I would tell them I escaped on my own, and they would believe that a white woman survived alone in Apache territory for over a month? Takuna shook his head. No, they would torture the truth from you. Sarah wanted to deny it, but she knew he was right. The cavalry had little mercy for anyone they considered Indian sympathizers. Then what happens to me? She asked quietly. You stay, Takuna replied. You are learning our ways. You work hard. The women no longer whisper that I should have left you for the vultures. Sarah smiled despite herself. High praise indeed. Takuna stood, offering her his hand. Sarah took it, allowing him to pull her to her feet. His hand lingered on hers a moment longer than necessary. "There is a ceremony tonight," he said. "The blessing of the summer harvest. You will attend." It wasn't a question, but Sarah nodded anyway. "I would be honored." As they walked back to the village, Sarah became aware of a subtle shift in their relationship. The hostility that had marked their early interactions had given way to something like respect, perhaps even friendship. She found herself studying his profile when he wasn't looking, the proud set of his jaw, the slight crease between his brows when he was deep in thought. That evening, the village gathered around a large central fire. Drums beat a hypnotic rhythm as dancers moved in elaborate patterns, their movements telling stories of creation, of battles won and lost, of the eternal cycle of seasons. Sarah sat beside Nasha, who had become something of a mentor to her. The old woman leaned close, speaking softly over the drums. "My son watches you differently now," she observed. "Not as a captor watches a prisoner." Sarah felt her cheeks warm. "I'm still his prisoner, Nasha." The old woman's eyes twinkled. "Are you? I think you both are prisoners now, of something neither of you expected." Before Sarah could respond, Takuna appeared before them, extending his hand to Sarah. "The visitors' dance," Nasha explained, nudging Sarah forward. "Go. It is an honor." Heart pounding, Sarah took Takuna's hand and allowed him to lead her into the circle around the fire. The other dancers made space for them, their expressions ranging from surprise to disapproval. "Follow my movements," Takuna instructed, beginning a simple stepping pattern. Sarah mirrored him, grateful for the natural sense of rhythm that had made her a sought-after dance partner at territorial socials. The drums quickened, and so did their movements. Takuna's hands guided her through turns and steps, his touch firm but gentle. As they danced, the world beyond the firelight seemed to fade away. There was only the music, the movement, and Takuna's eyes locked with hers. In this moment, she wasn't a captive or a white settler. She was simply a woman, dancing with a man who stirred something deep within her soul. When the music finally stopped, they stood facing each other, breathless. A murmur ran through the watching crowd. Whatever boundaries had existed between them had been irrevocably crossed. Later that night, as Sarah prepared for sleep in Nasha's wickiup, a young girl brought her a package wrapped in soft leather. "From Takuna," the child said before darting away. Inside the wrapping, Sarah found a necklace of polished turquoise stones and silver beads. It was beautiful, clearly valuable, and unmistakably significant. Nasha entered, saw the necklace in Sarah's hands, and smiled knowingly. "Among our people, such a gift has meaning," she said, sitting beside Sarah. "It is given when a warrior wishes to court a woman." Sarah's fingers tightened around the stones. "But I'm white." "Surely he wouldn't." "My son has never done what others expect," Nasha interrupted. "And neither, I think, have you." "What should I do?" Sarah whispered. "What does your heart tell you?" Sarah closed her eyes, the weight of the necklace in her palm anchoring her to this moment of decision. She thought of her father's ranch, of the life she had lived before, the social calls, the structured days, the expectations of a proper marriage to a proper gentleman. Then she thought of the past month, the freedom she had found here, the strength she had discovered within herself, and the man who had shown her a different way of seeing the world. "My heart is confused," she admitted. "Everything I've been taught says this is wrong." "The heart knows no teachings," Nasha replied sagely. "It knows only truth." The following morning, Sarah rose early and walked to the stream where the women gathered to collect water. She wore Takuna's necklace, the stones cool against her skin. The decision had come to her in the quiet hours before dawn. Not a decision about Takuna, not yet, but a decision to trust her own judgment, rather than the prejudices she had been raised with. As she filled her water skin, a commotion rose from the edge of the camp. Men's voices called out in alarm, and Sarah straightened, shading her eyes against the morning sun. Riders were approaching, Apache warriors returning from a hunting expedition, riding hard. They thundered into the village, leaping from their horses before they had fully stopped. The leader, a warrior named Nantai, who had always regarded Sarah with open hostility, spoke rapidly to the gathering crowd. "Soldiers," Takuna translated for Sarah as she joined them. "A large patrol moving this way. They have Apache scouts with them." Fear gripped Sarah's heart. How far? Half a day's ride. They will be here by nightfall. The village erupted into organized chaos. Women began dismantling wiki-ups while men gathered weapons and prepared horses. Children were dispatched to collect hidden food caches. Takuna pulled Sarah aside, his expression grave. You must decide now. When the soldiers come, will you go with them, or will you remain with us? Sarah touched the necklace at her throat, the symbol of a choice she hadn't fully made. If I go with them, what happens to you, to all of you? We will move deeper into the mountains, places where even Apache scouts fear to follow. And if I stay? Takuna's eyes softened. Then you become truly one of us. There can be no return to your old life. Sarah closed her eyes, the weight of the decision pressing down upon her. When she opened them again, her resolve was firm. I need to speak with them, she said, to prevent bloodshed on either side. Suspicion flashed across Takuna's face. You would betray our location. No, Sarah said firmly, taking his hand. I will meet them before they reach the village. I will tell them I escaped, that I've been wandering for days. I'll lead them away from your trail. They will not believe you. They will if I'm alone, if I look the part of an escaped captive. Sarah squeezed his hand. Trust me, Takuna. I can prevent a battle that would cost lives on both sides. Takuna studied her face, searching for deceit and finding none. Finally, he nodded. Nasha will help you prepare. You must look as though you have suffered. He touched the necklace at her throat. This you cannot wear. Sarah's hand covered his. I will keep it hidden, and I will find my way back to you when it's safe. As the village prepared for evacuation, Sarah felt the full weight of her choice. She was no longer simply a captive playing for time until rescue came. She was a woman standing between two worlds, trying to prevent a collision that would destroy what had become precious to her. And as Nasha helped her tear her clothes and dirty her face to create the appearance of hardship, Sarah realized that somewhere along the way, her heart had made its decision after all. Sarah crouched behind a boulder, watching the cavalry patrol approach through the narrow canyon. 20 men on horseback, led by Captain James Hollister, her father's friend and her former suitor. Even at this distance, she recognized his rigid posture and the distinctive gray horse he favored. Her plan was simple but dangerous. She would emerge from hiding, playing the part of an escaped captive, and convince them she had fled the Apache camp days ago. Then she would lead them away from the village's actual location, buying Takuna and his people time to reach the safety of the high mountains. Taking a deep breath, Sarah pinched her cheeks to bring color to them, ensured the turquoise necklace was safely hidden beneath her tattered dress, and stumbled out onto the trail. She waved her arms frantically, calling out in a voice made hoarse by design. Help! Oh, thank God! Help me! The patrol halted abruptly, rifles instantly raised. Then recognition dawned on the captain's face. Miss Mitchell! Hollister urged his horse forward, disbelief evident in his expression. Hold your fire, men. It's the Mitchell girl. Sarah allowed herself to collapse to her knees, summoning tears that were not entirely feigned. The past weeks had been emotional, exhausting, transformative, and now she played the most important role of her life. Hollister dismounted and rushed to her side, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. Sarah, my God, we thought you were dead. How did you escape? Water, she rasped, playing for time to compose her story. A canteen was quickly offered. Sarah drank slowly, organizing her thoughts. The details needed to be believable, but vague enough to avoid contradictions. I escaped 3 days ago, she finally said. They were moving camp. There was confusion. I slipped away at nightfall and have been hiding, moving only after dark. Which direction did they go? Hollister demanded, his arms still around her shoulders. We'll send a detachment after them immediately. Sarah pointed north in the opposite direction from the Apache village's actual escape route. That way toward the Red Cliffs. But James, they'll be long gone by now. They move so quickly. Did they harm you? Hollister asked, his voice dropping to a concerned whisper. The question carried unspoken implications that made Sarah's skin crawl. No, she said firmly. They made me work. Cooking, carrying water, but I was not mistreated. Relief washed over Hollister's face. Your father has been beside himself. We've had search parties out for weeks. Guilt twisted in Sarah's stomach. Her father. She hadn't allowed herself to think too deeply about the pain her absence must have caused him. but she pushed the feeling aside. Right now, her priority was ensuring the safety of the Apache village. "I need to rest," she said, leaning more heavily against Hollister. "Please, can we make camp?" "Of course." Hollister gestured to his men. "Make camp here. Barnes, ride ahead to Fort Braverman. Tell them we found Miss Mitchell alive, and will return tomorrow." As the soldiers busied themselves with setting up camp, Sarah was given a more proper canteen of water and hardtack to eat. She accepted both gratefully, playing the part of the traumatized captive while keeping her ears open to the soldiers' conversations. "Lucky we found her," one soldier muttered. "The colonel was talking about burning every Apache village between here and the border." "Still might," another replied. "Teach these savages a lesson about taking white women." Sarah bit her tongue until she tasted blood. These men knew nothing of the people they so casually condemned, nothing of the complex culture and rich traditions she had witnessed. Night fell, and Sarah was given a bedroll near the fire. Hollister sat beside her, his manner solicitous but possessive. "When we return to the fort, I'll escort you personally to your father's ranch," he said. "Sarah, these past weeks, they've confirmed what I've always known." She looked at him questioningly, though she feared she already knew what was coming. "Life is too uncertain out here to waste time," Hollister continued. "I spoke with your father before you were taken. He's given his blessing for me to ask for your hand." Sarah stared into the fire, remembering another fire, another night, dancing with Takuna while drums beat out an ancient rhythm. The memory was more vivid, more alive than the man sitting beside her now. "James, I'm very tired," she said, evading a direct response. "Can we speak of this tomorrow?" Hollister nodded, patting her hand. "Of course. Rest now, you're safe." But as Sarah lay in her bedroll, staring up at the star-filled sky, she didn't feel safe. She felt like a traitor to both worlds, the one she had been born into, and the one that had claimed her heart. In the darkest hour of night, when the camp was silent except for the soft snores of exhausted men, Sarah made her decision. Carefully, silently, she slipped from her bedroll. She took only what she absolutely needed: a canteen, a small knife, and a packet of matches from Hollister's saddlebag. The sentry was half asleep, nodding off at his post. Sarah crept past him, keeping low to the ground as Takuna had taught her. Once clear of the camp, she oriented herself using the stars, another of his lessons, and began moving south, toward the rendezvous point they had agreed upon. It would be a hard journey, 3 days on foot through difficult terrain, but Sarah had learned much during her time with the Apache. She knew how to find water, how to move without leaving obvious tracks, how to navigate by the sun and stars. Dawn found her miles from the cavalry camp, climbing steadily into the foothills of the mountains. She paused to rest, taking shelter in a small grove of juniper trees. From this vantage point, she could see dust rising in the distance. The patrol, no doubt in pursuit, once they discovered her missing. Sarah pressed on, pushing her body to its limits. By midday, dark clouds had gathered, and rain began to fall, a blessing that would obscure her tracks. She took shelter in a shallow cave, watching lightning split the sky and thinking of all she was leaving behind. Her father would be devastated anew. The comfortable life of the ranch, the society of other settlers, the security of her position as a respected gentleman's daughter, all sacrificed for a future of uncertainty. And yet, as she fingered the turquoise necklace now openly displayed around her neck, Sarah felt a certainty she had never known before. Among Takuna's people, she had discovered strength she never knew she possessed. She had found a freedom that the corseted, confined life of a proper lady could never offer. The storm passed, and Sarah continued her journey. On the third day, weary and footsore but determined, she reached the distinctive rock formation Takuna had described, 2 tall spires of red stone reaching toward the sky like praying hands. As she approached, a figure emerged from the shadows between the rocks. Takuna stood before her, his expression a mixture of disbelief and something deeper, more profound. "You came back," he said simply. Sarah stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I told you I would. The soldiers? Following a false trail to the north. They won't find your people." Takuna's eyes dropped to the necklace at her throat. Slowly, he reached out, his fingers brushing the stones and then the skin beneath them. "You wear it openly now." I've made my choice, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. If you still want me. Instead of answering with words, Takuna drew her into his arms. His kiss was gentle at first, then deepening with a passion that matched the storm building inside her. When they finally parted, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to hers in the Apache gesture of deepest intimacy. My people have traveled north, he said, to the high country where the white soldiers never go. It will be a hard journey. I'm stronger than I look, Sarah replied, smiling up at him. Takuna's answering smile transformed his face, erasing the stern warrior and revealing the man beneath. This I know well, Sarah Mitchell. Not Mitchell anymore, she said decisively. Just Sarah now, or perhaps you will give me an Apache name. Among my people, names are earned through deeds, Takuna said, leading her to where two horses waited patiently. You will earn yours in time. As they mounted and began the long journey north, Sarah cast one last look toward the south, toward the life she was leaving behind. There would be hardships ahead, prejudices to overcome on both sides, a lifetime of straddling two worlds. But as Takuna reached across to take her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she had found her true home, not in a place, but in the heart of a man whose courage and honor had taught her the true meaning of love. And that was worth any sacrifice.